Welcome to the Wrat introduction video.
What is the Wrat? It is the Wide Range Achievement Test. This test is part of our service standard with DCS and should be used with all tutoring and literacy service levels. The Wrat is considered a tool to assess both reading and math levels. It should be done at both the beginning and the end of a service level. The pre-assessment will help determine the baseline of where a client is at academically. The post-assessment will help determine the progress of services and should be done at the end of a service. If you do not know where to find the Wrat test folders, be sure to ask your team lead where in your office these can be found.
When should you administer the Wrat? This can be done during your first session or after you have built rapport with your client. It is a good idea to have a copy of the Wrat with you during the first session. You can introduce the test to the client and either administer it to it then or talk about when to take it. If the client does not have work to do and you do not know what to work on, then it'd be wise to administer the test. Be sure to be mindful of your client. Do not scare them with the test and instead present it as a tool to help them. Remind them that it is okay if they do not know all the answers. You can also let them know that the questions are meant to get harder as it goes. What is needed to administer the Wrat? If it is the beginning of the service level, you will need the blue folder. If it is the end of the service level, you will need the green folder. Inside the folder, you will find the following: a test form, response form, sentence comprehension form, reading list, spelling list, sentence comprehension card, and sentence comprehension sample card. There are several rules that you will need to follow when it comes to the Wrat. Each rule is on the blue test forms just above the administrator reading rule. Each rule is explained further in this video. One thing to keep in mind is that there are a total of 4 subtests for the Wrat. When beginning the test, you will need to do the letter and word reading subtest. This is to be done before the sentence comprehension subtest because this score you gather from this test will determine your starting point later. If the client is 7 or under, they will begin with the letter reading and then move on to the word reading. If the client is 8 or older, they will begin with the word reading. However, if the client gets 10 incorrect consecutively, they will move back to the letter reading. If the client was able to get 5 correct before they missed the 10 consecutively, then they will just move on to the next subtest. The next part that you will need to administer is the letter, writing, and spelling subtest. This test has the same rules as the reading test. If the client is 7 or under, they will begin with the letter writing and then move on to the word writing. If the client is 8 or older, they will begin with the word writing. If the client gets 10 incorrect consecutively, they will move back to the letter writing. However, if the client was able to get 5 correct before they missed 10 consecutively, then they will move on to the next subtest. These are the forms that you will hand your client for the letter and word writing subtest. The next subtest that you're going to administer is the sentence comprehension test. In order to know where the starting point will be and what sample items to administer, you will take the word reading raw score from the word reading subtest. You will not administer the test if they scored less than a 4 on the word reading raw score. The rules for the sentence comprehension test are different than those of the other subtests. When you begin to take the test, if your client does not get the first 5 done correctly, then you will need to test them backwards. For example, if you begin on starting point E, question number 25, but your client did not get 5 answers done correctly, then you will need to test them backwards starting from question 24 to 23 and so on. You will do this until they are able to get 5 answered correctly consecutively. Once this is done, you will go back to the last question that they got wrong in the original starting point. You will then do these questions until the client gets 7 consecutive questions incorrect, or you get to number 50. The last test that you will need to administer is the math computation subtest. This test follows the same rules as the first two subtests. If the client is 7 or under, they will begin with the oral math test and then move on to the math computation section. If the client is 8 or older, they will begin with the math computation section. If the client is not able to get 5 questions correct, then you will do the oral math part. This is what the clients will be handed for this subtest. You will give your clients 15 minutes to complete the math computation section. At the bottom of the second page, you will see the oral math section. When it comes to scoring the test, you will not need to complete the scoring on either the front or the back of the administration form. You will, however, add up the total of the correct responses and write them in your blue administration form. You can circle the correct responses and mark out the incorrect ones. This can help you keep track of the score later. You'll need to make sure that each blue test form has the client's name, age, and test date. Once you have scored the test and completed the tops of all of your forms, you will scan each page and send it to Bobby Brown. Once you have received the results, you can share the results with anyone on the case. This will include the FCM, the client's parents, the CASA, placement, and the school. Here's an example of the results that you will get back from Bobby Brown. One thing to keep in mind is the amount of time spent with tutoring and literacy levels. If your client is either in preschool or first grade, they are considered a Tier 1. Your sessions are to be 30 minutes long. If the client is in 2nd through 6th grade, they are considered a Tier 2. These sessions are to be 1 hour long. If the client is in 7th through 12th grade, then they are considered a Tier 3. Your sessions are to be 2 hours long. These times do not include transports. If you have any questions about the Wrat, make sure to reach out to your team lead for any more help.